Happy video day, guys, and happy Make Up Your Mind day. Today is another Make Up Your Mind because there is a brand new eyeshadow palette release. I mean, are you shocked? But yeah, there's a brand new one, and actually it's available right now for purchase. It's actually from Patrick Starrr, and he is a makeup artist, and he's also here on YouTube, and it kind of intrigued me when I saw this palette. Now, I saw different swatches of it, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I was intrigued by the palette. The palette is retailing for $42 US, and I decided, you know what, it's time to look at this palette, see what I have in my collection, see how close I can actually mimic this palette so I can kind of get an idea of the color story. Do I like the color story? Is it worth it for me to pick up? Do I own this palette a million times over? Yada yada yada. And of course, my Insta challenge. I posted this photo on Instagram and asked you guys, can you guess what palette I'm going to be mimicking this week? And these are all the people who guessed it right. So that is so awesome. Thank you guys so much for entering into the Insta challenge. If you guys want a chance to be featured in my next Make Up Your Mind, all you got to do is follow me over on Instagram at Christina Brooke Beauty. Wait for me to post an image that looks similar to this one and tell me what palette you guys think I'm trying to mimic, and you can be featured in my next Make Up Your Mind. So we've got a lot of stuff to go over here, and I want to show you guys something kind of cool. I decided to go ahead and make some Make Up Your Mind merch for this series, and I'm wearing one of the shirts right now. Looks just like this. It says Make Up Your Mind. It has my little swatches here, and yeah, so I wanted to create different ones. There's some white ones, there's some tank tops, there's some cool stuff. So if you guys want to check out my Make Up Your Mind merch, I'm gonna have everything linked down below. So DM me on Instagram, let me know what you think. But anyways, let's get into this video right now. All right, so let's start off how I always start off and showing you guys my results. So these are the results. Now, I'm gonna tell you guys, yes, I do think I found this palette, but I have a little bone to pick with a lot of beauty brands. I feel like the swatches that I saw on the Patrick Starr's website were very warm tone. Like, I felt like it looked like this was like another very warm tone palette, but then the swatches that I'm seeing from Trend Mood almost make me feel like, wow, this palette is different. They need to give us some real swatches here. I mean, like, put some real image swatches under natural daylight on the websites, put them on your Instagram, really show us what we're buying. This is what I came out with based off of the swatches that I found from Trend Mood, because I do feel like maybe those are the more accurate ones, and this is what I'm guessing the palette looks like. Now, let me show you guys the palettes that I jumped into. I jumped into the Jaclyn Hill and Morphe collab palette. This is such an essential palette, guys. Then I jumped into the Dose of Colors Cutting Edge palette, the Colourpop I Think I Love You palette, the KKW Beauty and Mario collab, and finally I only got one tone out of the Charlotte Tilbury Starry Eyes to Hypnotize. Some of them I only used for like 1 or 2 colors, and one of them I used for a lot of colors. So let's show you. The first color I had to jump into Jaclyn Hill. So Jaclyn Hill has this color right here, if you guys see it. It's kind of like this really cool like mango-y shade. And when I saw the swatch from Patrick Starrr, the first thing I thought of was this shade. There's also a shade that I own from Makeup Geek in a single called Chickadee that looks very similar too. But I believe that this is going to be a very similar tone to the color that's inside the new Patrick Starrr palette. I do think that these are going to look very similar. This is the color that I'm using as my peekaboo color. You guys know, I tell you guys all the time that I usually try to create looks that you could probably create if you purchase the palette, and this is a look that you could probably create if you purchase this palette. And also, if you guys want to start seeing Insta tutorials of my eye looks, I'm putting them all up on Christina Brooke Beauty, so follow me over there if you guys want to see more tutorials. This look will be up as well. For the next color, I was seeing this reddish brown tone. Now this also is very reminiscent of Jaclyn Hill. I jumped into this color right here inside the Jaclyn Hill palette. This color to me almost looks spot on to what I'm seeing in the swatch from Trend Mood. I do believe that this is going to be almost the same color, at least from the swatch. It looks like it's going to be, and I kind of like these two colors together. They look really pretty. This is a very nice color combination, and it's in Jaclyn Hill. I really do like it. But for the next color, I had to jump into the I Think I Love You from Colourpop. So I jumped into this 4th tone right here in the I Think I Love You from Colourpop. It has like a goldy, but at the same time it has like a little bit of like a bronzed undertone. This is very similar to what I see also inside of the swatch. This is a very pretty color. This is a little bit on the warm side. This entire thing is looking very warm to me, but what I do like is these colors are unique colors that do look very nice together. I do think it's a very cool looking color story so far. Very neat. Do I really need it? Probably not, but it is cool. So the next one, I actually jumped into Dose of Colors. So you guys know I just got this Cutting Edge palette and it reminded me of the tone inside of this new Patrick Starrr palette. But if you guys get this color right here, it's a little bit too deep, but you mix it with this color. So these two colors mix together, a little bit of the lighter one on top of the darker one, and you start to create a tone that looks very similar to the one in the Patrick Starrr palette. So this tone is very pretty. I do like this tone a lot. I do feel like I wish that it played a little bit more off of this tone, like maybe if the palette was curated a little bit more around the green rather than being curated around more of like the warmth. But at the same time, I like this color. It's very pretty. The next color I jumped into, Charlotte Tilbury Starry Eyes to Hypnotize. Now this is a unique color. I mean, I'm looking at this tone and I can't see where you can use this, but it is a little bit like thrown in there in my opinion. So I jumped into this color in the Seduce Glow, and it's this kind of like grayish blue. Now I believe that the one that's in the new Patrick Starrr palette is going to be a little bit more gray, maybe silver-y, but I do feel like I have something kind of similar inside of this palette. I do love silvery gray colors. I think that they're so pretty, but I've told you guys this in the past, I don't use them that often. So it's a really pretty tone. Probably one of the most unique colors right now for me, but I don't know if I really need it. Okay, so the next one is one that I'm tired of this color. So I do have it inside of this palette right here. So it's this really pretty, very gold. The good thing about the Dose of Colors one, it's not like obnoxious gold, but it still is. It's a gold, you know, goldy with shimmery tones. I feel like this is a color I see very often, and maybe some are a little bit more shocking. This one maybe has a little bit more champagne. I think this one's gonna be more like the Patrick Starrr one, which is prettier, but I have it, and I've told you guys this very often that I like gold, but I tend to not use it. So for the next color, jumped into the I Think I Love You from Colourpop, and I jumped into this tone right here. So this last tone right here looks kind of similar. Now this is one of the ones that, I mean, from the swatches on Trend Mood, this color looks similar. And when I did my swatches, I said, ooh, this looks like such a similar tone. But when I tried to match it up to the ones that he had on his website, I was like, wait, where is this tone? On his website, everything looks so orange. The next one is probably another one that's probably the most unique color in this palette. What I did was I jumped into Jaclyn Hill. Now, Jaclyn Hill doesn't specifically have this color, but what I did was I jumped into this shade right here, which gives me a little bit of like a pinky tone. And then if you dab a little bit of like this orangey kind of color on top, you start to create a color that looks to me kind of similar to what I'm seeing in the Trend Mood swatch. This color to me is probably one of the most unique besides the silver in this palette. It is interesting and it's very pretty. I do like it, but what I noticed about this palette so far is it has a lot of colors in it, and not, in my opinion, do all of these colors look fantastic together. It's almost like you need to kind of like cut them, do you know what I mean? So for the next one is another color that I think is beautiful. This is a color that I have in the Dose of Colors. It's this color right here. But now this color is a little bit too green. So if I jump into this kind of champagne-y tone, mix them together, it actually makes my green turn into more of like a lime. So it makes it into more of like a lime-ish green, which is very similar to this tone that I see inside of the new palette. That color is also very pretty. So I do like this color. I think that's a beautiful color. I think that that one is unique. I could mix it, like I said, to kind of make it, it's not as lime as maybe the Colourpop one, which hasn't arrived yet, but it's not as lime as that one. It's a little bit more olive. So this is a very pretty tone as well. It's very pretty. So the next one is a blue. I hardly ever use blue. And like, this is all personal preference, guys. Like for me, blue is like, ugh, I don't mind blues. I really don't, but certain types of blues. And this blue here, I have one similar in the KKW Beauty palette. This is the Mario collab. This color reminds me a lot of the color that I'm seeing swatched. It's a pretty color, guys, but it's very blue. And I don't use it. And out of all the colors inside of the KKW Beauty palette, that's the one I use the least. I sometimes use it as a liner for the waterline. That looks really pretty. Sometimes I use it as a, I'll sometimes tight line the lash line with it as well. But it's not a color that I tend to gravitate to, so I don't use it very often. That one's kind of like, I guess, a toss-up kind of waist color for me, but of course, it all depends on what you guys think. So the next one is another one I got from KKW Beauty and Mario. I grabbed this cream tone right here. This looks very similar to the cream tone that he has inside of his palette. Now, I have this color like a million times over, this beautiful cream white. It is really nice. I do enjoy having something cream, but what I've noticed is I have a lot of creams, and I've noticed I don't use the creams that often. Alright, so the next one is another little tricky one. And this is another tricky one because the swatches on his website don't match up to the Trend Mood one, but I am going by the Trend Mood one because I really think it's going to look like this color right here. So this is from I Think I Love You, and this is very similar to the tone that I grabbed from the Wayne Goss palette. So this is a really pretty tone. This is a nice base tone, has a little bit of warmth to it, but it's a little bit cooler. I think it's going to look more like that color, because when I swatched it, I almost felt like that color matched a lot more with the greens. And when I saw the swatch coming from Trend Mood, it looked similar to the Trend Mood swatch. I looked at the palette, it looks similar to the palette, so that's where I'm going. I think it's gonna be similar to that color. So for the next color, this one is a brown. This one's a brown. So I think that this brown is going to look similar to this brown. So this is a brown from the Jaclyn Hill palette. Now, I don't know if his palette is going to be a little bit more red of a brown, but you know, I looked at the swatches a million times and I ended up just saying, you know what, I think it's going to look like this one. The one from Trend Mood looks very similar to this one. I think it's going to look like this one. That's a gorgeous brown. I really like the Jaclyn Hill brown. All right, so for the next one, I think it's going to be similar to this color right here inside of Jaclyn Hill. So this is another one that's like more of like a warm base tone, very pretty color. This color looks amazing with like some of the greens. It has like the really, really pretty color to it. This one's actually really nice. So honestly, guys, the color story itself is pretty. There's a lot of colors here, so you can like go in like 5 million different directions with this palette. And the last color is a nice black. So, I mean, you can get the black out of Jaclyn Hill, you can get the black out of Charlotte Tilbury, you can get the black out of Colourpop. I've got the black in every single palette. And my favorite formula would probably be the Charlotte Tilbury one or the Jaclyn Hill. But that kind of rounds out this palette. What I'm thinking is, like, if you look at it and if you look at the swatches overall, the palette itself is pretty, but I have to make up my mind, and I'm going to make up my mind and say that I'm going to pass on this palette. And the main reason that I'm going to pass on this palette is because I feel like the Jaclyn Hill palette, which I really, really enjoy and I forget to pick up a lot, it has a kind of like similar idea that you got, you know, you can go in the green direction, the blue direction. You can go so many different directions with Jaclyn Hill. And I feel like this palette for me is going to turn into one of those that I'm gonna like it, I'm gonna think it's cool, it's gonna be pretty, but because you can go in so many different directions and not everything plays well together, I might end up skipping it a lot. And I feel like the blue honestly probably wasn't needed for me. I think that if you're somebody who doesn't have a lot of eyeshadow palettes, this is gonna give you so many colors in one and it's probably gonna be worth it for you. But if you're somebody like me that has so many already, it's just not something I need in my collection, so that's why I'm going to pass on it. But like I said, if you don't have that many eyeshadow palettes, I do think it is a cool color story. At least it's something different. Haven't seen this a million times over, so at least that's a good thing about it, but I really just don't need it right now. So anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that it was fun. Let me know down below if you guys found any colors more similar in your collection. People love to read what you guys find, so leave those comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, like I said, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.